the reality here is that China could shut down the wild card and wild child of North Korea, as I call him, tomorrow, because they provide 40% of the food and fuel to that country, and it's a vassal state, essentially. But they don't do that. But what, to me, North Korea represents most is something Mike O'Hanlon shared with me from the Brookings Institution in the interview. And this is the distraction we've had with the Middle East. On the eve of 9/11, the Bush administration was actually aware of a rising China and was pivoting back then. But as soon as 9/11 hit, that was over, right? And in 2003, well, the Bush administration was preparing to invade Iraq. What did North Korea do? They spirited 8,000 spent fuel rods out of the civilian reactor, which we had been watching, and they had agreed not to do. They centrifuged that, and they got that reactive material to places we can now no longer find. And that was the day, because we were distracted in the Middle East, that was the day they became a nuclear power. It's taken over 10 years in order for them to get to where they are, but they're going to get even further. And one of the most chilling interviews I had was with David Lampton at Johns Hopkins University. I asked him, I said, they're going to get pretty good at Seattle, hitting Seattle with a nuke. He said, yeah, but nothing we can do about it at this point. So North Korea is very much a trigger point. If you swing around the arc and you go to the Senkaku Islands, yeah, it's 1.3 square miles of territory. Rocks in the sea, no problem. Well, it's also 200 miles of an exclusive economic zone in a concentric circle. It's resources, but it's also the southern flank, or it's on the flank of Taiwan and the Ryukyu Islands. And if China is able to grab that and turn it into one of these fortress garrisons, then it creates vulnerabilities for Japan. So that, I mean, we've already seen what happened in 2010 and 2012 over that. We had mass riots in 100 cities in 2012 in China. Crazy nationalists going crazy, talking about going to war with Japan. That's a flashpoint. Swing around to the South China Sea. 9-dash line, most of you are familiar with that. That's the claim that began in 1947. It basically, it's called the cow's tongue because that's what it looks like. It's 80% of the South China Sea. We're there now. Our warships are there now as we speak, circling around some of these fortress garrisons, which China is trying to turn into, from artificial islets into real territory. That's a flashpoint. And of course, you got the perennial issue of Taiwan. China calls it the renegade province. It's an island of over 20 million people who are right now really depressed and afraid. They're depressed and afraid for two reasons. One is that they see China slowly, just like a python, encircling them. And they also see a U.S. which may no longer have the resolve to stand with Taiwan. I interviewed one professor, Charles Glazer, who actually proposed a grand bargain to basically trade Taiwan for peace everywhere else. Okay? Yeah. Fortunately, everybody else I talked to, they didn't think that was such a good idea. But I think it does reflect the fact that if push comes to shove, we might not have American forces standing up for Taiwan like Bill Clinton did in 1996 or Eisenhower did several times in the 50s. And Taiwan, there's a lot of reasons, and Toshi might have some reflections on this, but it's not just about the morality or ethics or the commitment to democracy of Taiwan. That's the center of the first island chain. Dean Chang said it best. You give that away. You give that aircraft carrier, unsinkable aircraft carrier away, and that opens the whole Pacific to a Chinese Navy, which is now more or less bottled up